Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Erha. So let's jump straight into Chapter 22. Chapter 22. This venerable one's Shizun is about to get angry. Chua Ning, having heard this much, was already livid. He wished only that he could withdraw the willow vine and direct it with vigor toward the Chen couple instead. But he couldn't open his eyes to curse them out just yet, because the restoration illusion would disappear immediately if he were to do so. A ghost could only be trapped by the truth restoration barrier once. If interrupted, he would never be able to hear the rest of what Lo Xianxian had to say. So he could only bear with the burning rage as he listened to the rest of Lo Xianxian's story. After death, her spirit went to the underworld, numb and disoriented. She remembered only a lady dressed in resplendent colors, who looked quite like the ghost mistress in the temple, standing before her and asking her in a soothing voice, "You and Chen Bohuan could not lay together in life, but do you wish to be buried together in death?" She answered in panic, "I do! I do!" "Then I will have him come keep you company right away, all right?" Lo Xianxian almost blurted out an eager agreement without thinking, but suddenly remembered something and paused. "Am I dead?" "Yes, I am the ghost mistress of ceremonies in the underworld. I can bestow you a good match, fulfill your long-time wish." Lo Xianxian said in a daze, "Then, if he comes to keep me company, will he also die?" "Yes, but the heavens are compassionate. Life and death is insignificant, merely a closing of the eyes. What's the difference?" Chua Ning thought to himself that, as expected, this ghost mistress used trickery to lure people into making wishes on the lives of others, truly an abominable deity. Okay. I thought my sound went out. Okay. Although Lo Xianxian had died a wrongful death, she was not a malicious ghost. She shook her head repeatedly. "No, don't kill him. It wasn't his fault." The ghost mistress gave a melancholic smile. "Such kindness. But what will you get in return?" But it didn't try to change her mind. As a deity, coaxing people into making malevolent wishes was fine, but coercion was not. Gradually, its figure faded away and its voice became blurry. "The soul returns on the 7th day. When you go back to the living world on the 7th day, go see what the Chen family is up to. Then I will come ask you again and see if you are still without regrets at that time." 7 days later, on the day of return, Lo Xianxian's spirit regained awareness and returned to the world of the living. She followed the familiar roads to the Chen Manor, eager to see her husband one last time. Unexpectedly, the Chen Manor was festively adorned with lanterns and banners. The reception area was piled high with betrothal gifts, and there was a massive she character in the main hall. Madame Chen's entire face was glowing, no sign of any illness whatsoever, as she smilingly directed servants to pack the betrothal gifts with red silk and ornate decorations. Who was getting married? Who was preparing betrothal gifts? Who was sparing no expense? How very grand! Who was... She weaved between the busy crowd, listening to the drones of voices. "Madame Chen, congratulations on the engagement of your son with Governor Yao's daughter. When's the engagement feast?" "Madame Chen is truly blessed. Mistress Yao really is the Chen family's lucky star. The betrothal was just settled, and Madame Chen is already looking much better. Your son and Mistress Yao are as gold and jade, a match made in heaven. I'm so envious. Ha 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 ha." Your son? Your son? Which son? Who is getting married with the daughter of the Yao family?" Frantically, she roamed the familiar halls and yard, looking for that familiar silhouette between the chatter and laughter. She found it. Chen Bohuan stood before the peonies in the rear hall, his face wan, cheeks sunken, but he was dressed in red. Not wedding robes, but Butterfly Town's traditional butterfly-embroidered red robes, worn by the son-in-law when he goes to the bride's house to propose. Was he going to propose? All of these lavish gifts, full of gold, silver, and pearls, all of it had been prepared by him, by Chen Bohuan, her husband, for the daughter of the Yao family. She suddenly recalled when the two of them had got married. There had been nothing, just two people, one heart and nothing else. No master of ceremonies, no bridesmaid or best man, no gifts. The Chen family had not yet prospered and didn't even have so much as a single decent set of jewelry. He had walked to the clementine tree in the yard that they'd planted together and plucked a delicate blossom, carefully tucking it in her hair. She had asked him, "How do I look?" "Beautiful," he had said. Then he had been silent for a moment before stroking her hair apologetically. "You deserve better." Lo Xianxian had smiled and said she didn't mind. Chen Bohuan had said to her that when he formally married her in 3 years' time, he would definitely make it up to her with a grand ceremony, and everyone would be invited. He would go pick her up with a big sedan carried by 8 men, adorn her in gold and silver, and the reception would be filled with betrothal gifts. The promise made that year rang in her ears. Here and now, the ceremony was grand, and everyone was invited. But he was marrying someone else. Anger and sorrow washed over her. Lo Xianxian screamed as she tore at the red silks and brocades in the room. But, being a ghost, she couldn't touch any of it. As if sensing something, Chen Bohuan looked back, gaze hollow as he stared blankly at the silks in the room, drifting despite there being no wind. His little sister walked over. There was a white jade hairpin in her hair. She was mourning secretly for someone. "Oh, so Chen Bohuan really doesn't want to get remarried. He really is mourning over Lo Xianxian, but he's being forced into marriage by his mother. And his little sister is also mourning Lo Xianxian. So at least some of the Chen family is not heartless, you know?" She said, "Da-ge, please go eat something. You haven't eaten properly for days, and you still have to travel to the governor's residence to propose later. Your body won't hold up like this." Chen Bohuan suddenly asked out of the blue, "Xiao Mei, do you hear someone crying?" "Huh? No. Da-ge, are you?" She grit her teeth and didn't finish the thought. Chen Bohuan continued to stare at the place where the silks drifted. "How is mother? Is she in a good mood? Has she recovered from her illness?" "Da-ge." "It's good that she's recovered." Chen Bohuan stood there, spacing out for a while, then mumbled to himself, "I've already lost Xianxian. I can't lose mother, too." "Da-ge, please, go eat." Lo Xianxian cried, screamed, held her head and wailed in anguish. Don't go. Don't leave." Chen Bohuan said, "All right." The exhausted figure turned a corner and disappeared. Lo Xianxian stood there alone in a daze, fat droplets of tears rolling down her cheeks. By chance, the voices of the Chen brothers who had caused her death drifted over, the second and youngest brothers whispering to one another. "Mother is overjoyed." Sigh. "Things are finally falling into place." "You don't say! It took half a year of pretending to be sick to finally force that unlucky pest out. How could she not be happy?" The youngest brother clicked his tongue, then suddenly said, "I can't believe she just up and died, though. We only threw her out. It's not like we wanted to kill her. How stupid was she? Did she not even know to go find help? Who knows? Maybe she's just thin-skinned like her sourpuss father. It's not our fault that she died. Mother may have duped her, but things are difficult for us too. Just think about it. Between the governor's daughter and some peasant girl, only an idiot would choose her. Besides, if we offend the precious daughter of the Yaos, things won't end well for us." These terrible Chen brothers. "You're right. She's just a dumbass. If she wants to freeze to death, that's on no one." The words drifted to her ears. Only in death did Lo Xianxian finally understand that the so-called bringer of misfortune just meant that she was poor and low status, and couldn't compare with the governor's honored daughter. Only an idiot could choose the peasant girl. She finally lost it. She returned to the temple of the ghost mistress, heart filled with hatred and resentment. She had died there, weak and helpless. She returned there now, bitter and stone-hearted. She had once been so kind and good-natured, but now she called up all the hatred in her lifetime, and all the wickedness in her character that she had never let loose before. She screamed herself hoarse, eyes red, soles quivering. She screamed, "I, Lo Xianxian, am willing to give up my soul to become a malicious ghost. I beg the ghost mistress only for vengeance. I want the entire Chen family to die miserably. I want that mother-in-law of mine, who is worse than a beast, to kill her sons with her own hands. All of them! I want Chen Bohuan to come keep me company in hell, to be buried together with me. I refuse to accept this. I hate! On the shrine, the clay idol lowered its eyelids, the corner of its lips curving into a smirk. A voice echoed inside the temple. Your worship has been accepted, and your wish will be fulfilled. Henceforth, you are a malicious ghost. Go forth and slaughter all who have wronged you. A piercing, blood-red light flashed, and Lo Xianxian remembered nothing after that. But Chu Wanning already knew what happened next. The ghost mistress controlled the malicious ghost Lo Xianxian to possess Madame Chen and murder the Chen family one by one. And the reason Chen Bohuan was in that red coffin dug up at the mountain was also to fulfill Lo Xianxian's wish. I want Chen Bohuan to be buried together with me. On top of that, it had intentionally placed the coffin where he and his new wife were going to build their house to both curse and avenge. As for the scent inside Chen Bohuan's coffin, it was that of the 100 butterfly fragrance that had been on Lo Xianxian's body when she died. The coffin was filled with both strong resentful energy and heavy fragrance because Lo Xianxian's soul slept inside with Chen Bohuan. Lo Xianxian had no family left. When such a person dies, they are customarily cremated rather than buried. Thus, she no longer had a body, and could only take on her form inside the ghost mistress's coffin. Back then, when Chu Wanning had split open the coffin with a whip, Lo Xianxian's soul had lost its shelter and scattered, temporarily unable to reconvene. That was the reason why the coffin's resentful energy was strong when closed, but faint once opened. Still, in the illusory realm, why were all the corpses matched in pairs except for Chen Bohuan, who was matched with the paper ghost bride? Chu Wanning pondered for a moment and figured it out. The ghost mistress wouldn't break its own promise. That ghost bride was meant to be Lo Xianxian's corporal body, or a medium, in other words, since only Lo Xianxian could be buried together with Chen Bohuan. Everything became clear. Chu Wanning looked at the helpless girl in the illusion. He wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. Yu Hung Elder really was bad with words. Everything he said came out stiff, so the silence stretched on, and he ended up saying nothing after all. The girl stood in the endless darkness, her soft but bright eyes round. Chu Wanning looked at her eyes and suddenly didn't have the heart to bear it anymore. He wanted to leave, unable to bear another glance. He was just about to open his eyes and leave the truth restoration barrier when the girl suddenly spoke. Yang Mo Guga, there's something else I wanted to tell you. Chu Wanning. The girl lowered her head and started crying into her hands. She said, Yan Lo Guga, I don't know what I did afterwards, but I really don't want to get my husband killed. I don't want to be a malicious ghost, really. I didn't steal the clementines. I really am Chen Bohuan's wife, and my whole life I really never wanted to harm anyone. I really didn't want to harm anyone, and please, I beg you, please believe me. Her trembling voice was broken with sobs. I didn't lie. Why is it that my whole life hardly anyone ever believed me? She sobbed miserably. Chu Wanning's voice rang out in the darkness. He didn't say much, but it was without hesitation. Lo Xianxian's small body jolted. Chu Wanning said, I believe you. Lo Xianxian tried to wipe away her tears, but couldn't stop crying. In the end, she covered her tear-streaked face with her hands and bowed deeply toward the person she couldn't see in the darkness. Chu Wanning opened his eyes. He said nothing for a long while. Time passed differently inside the barrier than it did in reality. He was inside for a long time, but it was a mere instant to those on the outside. Moran hadn't arrived yet, and the remaining members of the Chen family were still watching him apprehensively. Chu Wanning suddenly put away the willow vine and spoke toward Madame Chen. I will voice your grievances. You can sleep now. Madame Chen stared blankly with blood-red eyes, then suddenly collapsed to the ground with a thud, unconscious. Chu Wanning lifted his head again, his gaze sweeping across Landlord Chen's face, and then landing on the youngest son. His voice was flat and cold. I will ask one last time. He spoke slowly, clearly enunciating each word. You really do not know whose voice that was? Okay, that was the end of chapter 22. So, to recap, Chu Wanning finally got to hear the end of Lo Xianxian's story and how Madame Chen ended up being possessed and killing all of her sons. And Chu Wanning thankfully believes in Lo Xianxian's story. So he's gonna go and get her retribution, I guess. Okay, chapter 23. This venerable one couldn't stop him. The youngest son quivered uncontrollably, both legs shaking as he looked up at his father. Landlord Chen's eyes darted left and right. After a while, he insisted, Don't know it. Don't recognize it. Chuaning's face was cold like frost. He spoke in a low voice. Liar. He had a severe appearance to begin with. Now, with his eyebrows lowered and an aura of fury, he looked even more murderous, even scarier than a malicious ghost. Landlord Chen unconsciously took 2 steps back. Suddenly, Chuaning struck the ground with Tianwen, and sparks danced with the vine as leaves flew into the air. Landlord Chen promptly fell on his ass. Was the 100 butterfly fragrance really made by your family? Was that your eldest son's first marriage? Does Lo Xianxian ring a bell? Just how shameless are you at this ripe old age? Landlord Chen's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, but couldn't manage a single word in the end as his face turned from ashen to scarlet. The young daughter of the Chen family, who had been cowering off to the side this whole time, heard the name Lo Xianxian and immediately started crying. She stumbled over to kneel before her mother, shaking that unconscious body. Lo Jiejie! Lo Jiejie! Was it all you? I know you were wronged, that you can't accept it, but please, I beg you, if only for me, please spare my family. Lo Jiejie! Chuaning leaned over, Tianwen glowing golden in his hand, and used its hilt to lift Landlord Chen's face. He had a phobia of touching people he found disgusting. It gave him goosebumps. Do you really think I can't tell when someone's lying to me? He spoke coldly, staring into Landlord Chen's face and seeing his own reflected in those frightened eyes. It is indeed an unlikable face, cold and harsh, like a blade covered in frost. But so what? Yu Heng of the night sky never needed affection from any other people. Daojang! Shizun Peak sent you, and I'm the client! How could you pry into my private business like this? Chuaning said, Fine, I'll get out of your business then. You can die. Wait, you can't... I can't? Danger flickered in Chuaning's narrowed eyes. I can't what? You... If someone like you were a disciple of my sect, Chuaning said as he stroked Tianwen, I'd whip you bloody and snap your bones right here. Hearing that, Landlord Chen finally gave up on trying to play dumb. Seeing Chuaning's vicious demeanor, without a hint of the compassion one would expect from a cultivator, his legs began to shake involuntarily as he knelt down, throwing all self-respect out the window to wail, Daojang, we had no choice. We couldn't afford to offend the governor's daughter. We were so worried we could hardly eat, Daojang. He reached out to hug Chuaning's thighs while wailing. Chuaning's phobia flared up. Seeing that Landlord Chen was about to touch himself, he brought the willow vine down without a second thought, exclaiming in disgust, Don't touch me! Ah! The back of his hand got lashed by Tianwen, and even though there was no spiritual energy behind the strike, Landlord Chen still howled in pain, shouting, Unbelievable! Shizun Peak's cultivator beat up common folk! You! When Moran supporting the 2 invalids stepped into the Chen manor, the sight that greeted him was that of Landlord Chen crying snottily where he was kneeling on the ground, pointing at Chuaning with a shaky finger, yelling, Which other sect does that? Your Shizun Peak took the fee and, not only did you not protect the client, you attacked me instead. It's so very shameless. I'm gonna tell everyone. I'll announce it to the world. I'll make sure everyone knows about your sex attitude. I'll destroy your sex reputation and make sure you never get paid another copper. Chuaning snarled. So what if you have money? Does money allow you to flip right and wrong? To repay kindness with cruelty? Does money let you do whatever you want? Break all your promises? The Chen family's youngest son spoke up timidly from the side. It's not like we killed that Lo Xianxian. We just knocked her around a bit and chased her out. She's the one that didn't want to live. It's not our fault she didn't look for shelter from the snow. You can't blame us for that. We didn't kill anyone. You can't just point fingers as you please just because you're some mighty cultivator. His words were extremely crafty. Technically, the Chens hadn't broken any laws. Even if Chuaning were to drag them to court, at most, the officials might rebuke them for being heartless and dishonest, but none of them would be convicted of anything. I didn't kill Uncle, but Uncle died because of me. Well, you've certainly cleaned up after yourselves. Oh wait, no, that was Chuaning speaking. Sorry. I didn't kill Uncle, but Uncle died because of me. Well, you've certainly cleaned up after yourselves. Chuaning's hand, clenched around the willow vine, shook with anger. Landlord Chen, that old weasel, had already picked up his wits from where they had been scattered by the initial scare. He had been afraid that Chuaning would ditch them without taking care of the ghost before, but thinking about it again, this barbarous Dao Zhang was still sent by Shisheng Peak. As the foremost sect of the lower cultivation realm, since they'd already collected the fee, they would definitely finish the job. That was common knowledge. Once he came to this realization, he stopped being quite so afraid. He held onto his own hoof with a tiny cut on it, all tears and snot as he cried, "Cleaned up? Us Chens, we've never done anything heinous. No murder and no arson. If Lo Xianshen didn't want to live, how was that any of our fault? If you don't properly exorcise this ghost today, I'll go to Shisheng Peak and file a complaint about you immediately. Who does things like you people? If you take someone's money, you gotta take care of their problems. How do you not understand something that basic? And you..." Before he'd even finished, Chuaning took his own wallet and threw it on the ground before him without blinking. "Your payment to the sect. I've returned it in full. As for complaining, feel free." Tianwen glowed brightly, willow leaves sharp as knives. Caught off guard, Landlord Chen yelped and squealed, covering his head and scurrying about like a rat, even dragging his own daughter over to block the lashes in his frenzy. Luckily, Chuaning was a practiced hand at whipping people, and Tianwen was one with his mind. The willow vine pulled back immediately to avoid hitting the Chen daughter before circling around and heading directly for Landlord Chen's face. Immediately, there was a loud shriek, and blood splattered instantly. Landlord Chen hadn't expected Chuaning to be so completely unfazed by his posturing, and his air of arrogance melted instantly into a puddle of mud, leaving him scared shitless as he fled and wailed, Wait! Hold the whip! Dao Zhang, I was just talking nonsense, just nonsense! Ah, Dao Zhang, spare me! Ayo, please, I'm begging you! I'm getting on in years! I can't bear this! Dao Zhang, have mercy! It was our fault! It was our fault! Chuaning wasn't even listening to him. His chest was stuffy with anger. Phoenix's eyes harshly narrowed as Tianwen danced in the air and Landlord Chen rolled around on the ground in pain, crying snottily. Moran stood at the gate, stunned. He had never seen Chuaning whip a commoner with Tianwen before, and so ruthlessly too, as if he was whipping a beast, the willow vine moving so fast it was barely visible. What kind of mess was this? The contractor beating up the client, whether in the upper or lower cultivation realm, would definitely destroy the cultivator's reputation for good. No matter how bad Chuaning's temper was, or how much he let his heart rule his head, how could he have gone so far as to commit this big of a blunder? This was way more serious than his thieving and debauchery. Shumei's face was pale from shock. He pulled at Moran in a panic. Hurry up and stop Shizun! Moran handed the still unconscious Chen Yao, that is, the treasured daughter of the Yao family, over to Shumei, and stepped forward to grab Chuaning's wrist, alarmed and apprehensive. Shizun, what are you doing? Chuaning was in a terrible mood, brows furrowed. He bellowed, "Let go." Shizun, this is against the rules! As if I need you to tell me? Which of Shisheng Peak's 750 rules do I not know better than you? Let go! Moran raised his voice. Then why aren't you stopping? Chuaning didn't feel like wasting his breath with him, abruptly ripping his hand away instead, and another lash landed ruthlessly on Landlord Chen. Shizun! Chuaning growled, eyes frosty. Get lost. Landlord Chen saw that Moran looked handsome and amiable, definitely a good person, and so hurriedly crawled over, cowering behind Moran and tugging at the corner of his clothing. Dao Zhang, please talk to your Shizun. My old bones, even if I was wrong, my old bones can't take this kind of beating. But contrary to his expectations, when Moran turned around and saw his snot and tears-covered face, he felt not pity but disgust, moving quickly away with an ah, and muttering in disdain, "Don't touch me." Landlord Chen saw that this one could not be relied upon, and his gaze moved on to Shumei, who was helping Chen Yao into a chair not too far away. Holding on to his last bit of hope, he crawled towards Shumei, wailing and crying, Dao Zhang, please show some kindness, show some mercy. I know I was wrong, it was my fault, all my bad. Please, I beg you, please talk to your Shizun. I was wrong, I admit my defeat. No, I admit my fault. I'll do whatever you say. Just please don't hit me anymore. I'm old. My bones can't take it. Can't bear it. He cried pitifully, genuinely begging for his life as he crawled to Shumei's side and tugged at his clothes. Shumei was filled with pity and turned to implore Chuaning. Shizun, since the old man already knows he's wrong, please show some mercy and spare. Chuaning, out of the way. Shumei, ... Chuaning said harshly, did you not hear me? Shumei shuddered in fear and moved out of the way. Tianwen ripped through the air with a whoosh, headed directly for Landlord Chen, who covered his head with both arms and let out a frightened cry. The sound was really too pitiful, and Shumei couldn't help but step back in front, blocking the hit for him. The lash landed resoundingly. Shumei moved too fast. Chuaning tried to pull back, but it was too late. Oh no! Droplets of blood flew. In his weakened state, Shumei promptly fell to his knees from the strike. He covered his delicate cheek, but couldn't stop the blood trickling out from between his fingers. Oh no! Chuaning accidentally hit Shumei. Moran's gonna be pissed, even though it was an accident. Author's notes. Forum category, World of Relationships. OPID. Wise monarch of this generation, Mo Wei Yu. Question. Ex-boyfriend, sort of counts as. Accidentally struck the man in my dreams. What to do? Urgent. Waiting online for an answer. Oh no. Location, Butterfly Town, Chen Manor. Post 1. This depends on if OP wants to get back with the ex-boyfriend, or if OP wants to pursue the man of your dreams. Post 2. Beat up the ex. X's favorability -10. White Moonlight's favorability +10. Pretend you saw nothing. X's favorability doesn't change. White Moonlight's favorability -10. OP's gotta decide on the game plan yourself. Post 3. Self-destruct and play dead, kid. Post 4. I'm pretty curious. What does sort of counts as mean? How can someone sort of count as an ex-boyfriend? Could it be that OP used force? Post 5. Choose to forgive him, of course. Post 6. Our shop sells heavenly fragrance lubrication oil, marriage between yin and yang, secret to dual cultivation. If there's a need for it, please add 4848143 as a friend. Contact person, Miss Wang of Shisheng Peak. Okay, oh no. That was the end of chapter 23. Moran is gonna be pissed. So in chapter 23, Chuaning decided to get retribution himself per Lo Xianshan and decided to beat up Landlord Chen. And he gave back Landlord Chen the money. So he's like, our peak is returning the fee, so I can beat you up now. We don't owe you anything. And so Landlord Chen is trying to plead with Moran and Shumei to please stop your Shizun from beating me up. Moran's like, don't touch me, disgusting geezer. And Shumei decides to step in because he's a good kid and accidentally gets whipped by Tianwen. So, and of course, Chuaning did not mean to hit his disciple, but Moran's probably gonna view it differently. He's gonna be really, really mad at his Shizun now. Oh no. Okay, well, I hope everything ends well. I hope Lo Xianshan does get the justice that she deserves. And I'm glad that Chuaning stepped up for her, yeah. Okay, well, that's it for today. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Bye-bye!